Hi guys, my name is Andrew, and I'm sitting here today with Morgan. How did you start in music? How old were you, and what got you into it?
It was my dad. I was 5. He was, I would have been 30-ish, and he started he was a welder, real smart guy. He had a degree in chemistry, but he wanted to do some, you know, just exploration, I guess. And he said, "I've always wanted to play the piano." So he took piano lessons from our local piano teacher named Betty Allen, and he was working on arpeggios. And I remember laying there in bed and hearing him practice and going, "I want to play arpeggios. I really want to play arpeggios." So I went to my parents and I begged. I said, "Can I take piano lessons?" They said, "No, you have to, be fully reading first." So I dove in and was reading like not long after, like just days after. Really, I really dove into it. And they're like, "So can I have piano lessons now?" I'm like, "Okay." So I took piano lessons with my dad, and he would have the first lesson, and I would sit on the couch and watch, and then I would have the second lesson, and he would sit on the couch and watch me play. And we did that for a couple of years. I remember it wasn't too long after. I mean, unfortunately, being a kid, I was precocious, and I think it was about 8 or 9 when I had kind of passed him in the grade levels, and he was like, "Okay." And then I asked him one time, I said, "So, how come you keep playing that section wrong?" He's like, "I think I'm done. I think I've explored this as much as I need to explore it." So, unfortunately, I think I drove him out of piano, but it was fun. My sister is a phenomenal musician, phenomenal, and my brother actually has he never really went anywhere with it, but he will come out of a movie and he'll say, "Hey, did you recognize when they brought that theme back in the during that scene at the end?" I was like, "Oh goodness, you caught that!" Like, holy man. So there's a musical ear that runs through the family, and I think it drew us all. And then and Rainier's a part of that, so he got that same musical ear, and it just draws him in. Music just speaks to us.
So that's been one of the interesting storylines in Red Deer is that you've got your son playing with you now.
Yeah, I love playing with him. He's a fabulous jazz drummer. It's been a blast. Kind of experiencing the first thrill of becoming, a paid musician through my kid's eyes, like just because he's doing it now. I'm like watching him do that. Well, it brings back so many memories and so much fun. It's great. He's played lots of gigs and shows with me. He's both in musical theater and jazz stuff. So yeah, he's great.
He's basically a working, jobbing musician now, right?
He's pretty much down that path. He's even played some without me.
What I noticed really when you guys were playing on stage is you guys feed off each other a lot. Like he's really listening to you, and you're kind of feeding off of him,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's this interesting father-son dynamic going
Well,
on.
he was having wanting to play a jam every single night we could. He'd be like, "Dad, can we go downstairs and jam?" I mean, who's gonna say no to that? So we go downstairs and play for 90 minutes until we knew that the neighbors would probably start banging on the side of the house, saying, "Guys, it's 10."
That is one
Yeah.
of the downsides of being a drummer, right? Is you do have the noise
Mhm.
bylaws. Are you still doing some teaching too?
No, I have backed completely out of that. I found my schedule. I really, like, I was always in the theater, and the theater thing has taken off like you wouldn't believe. So in the past, I had, nights that were dead for jazz musicians, like Tuesday, Wednesday, nights we don't generally play. I would teach those nights. And then I would realize I never had a night off. And B, I realized that I was always canceling because with theater gigs, your dark days usually like Monday and that's it. So Sunday night, Monday, that's the only time I had. And like, do I really want to fill that with teaching? I actually started in theater. My first professional gig was when I was in grade 10 at Thurber. I got asked to play for Godspell with the luminary Larry Reese,
Oh, cool.
and drummer Harley Hay was actually the band leader on that one. And I was, I guess, 14 when I started rehearsals, 15 when we finished. And so I was playing, it was a paid gig at the college, and then it turned into, over time, it turned into conducting and music directing. So when I took a gap year and I did theater the whole time. And when I went to Berkeley, because I went to Berkeley, I actually went for recording engineering because I was already working for Themes and Variations, which I still work for today. I was doing small albums for back in the day. So I went to school for recording engineering, and I had post show withdrawal. I was like, oh, I miss doing a show, so I went across the street because they didn't do any theater at Berkeley. But right across the street, there's a school called Boston Conservatory. So I went there and I knocked on the door, and they said, "Do you guys ever need piano players?" And they're like, "Well, come in and show us what you can do." So I went in, I played for, his name was Roger Grodsky, or he's the director of the musical theater department. And I went in, I talked to Roger, and I played a little bit, and he asked me some questions. He said, "We'll call you, kid. Thanks." And, okay, and literally my phone rang when I got home,
Wow.
and it was like, "Hey, we're looking for a music director for Evita here at the conservatory. Can you do it?" Sure. And that led to basically all my gigs. I've ended up playing for the lighting of the Christmas tree ceremony at Boston, down in the Government Center with the mayor of Halifax. And I was like, "This is fantastic! What am I doing out here?" Kid from Red Deer playing these big events. And that sort of branched off into jazz. That turned into a cruise ship gig, going up and down the coast on the lobster tours. Um, and that's how I kind of broke into playing jazz. But it was actually theater first, and then jazz, and then I've always been doing theater. I've never really stopped, and I fit in the jazz gigs when I can. Sometimes there's lulls in theater, so I took a steady in 2018 with Eric Allison playing out in Sylvan Lake, and it was probably the best education you could possibly get as a jazz musician, because he's one of those old school cats that knows every tune in the world, right? And he would just keep introducing me to tunes, and I would actually get a list going and I'd download them on the way home, and I'd listen to them in the car. I'm like, okay, and then I'd make it my mission to learn them. And so the next gig, I'd make sure I had a couple of them up here, and I got a big catalog of because we did that gig for about 18 months, every single Saturday night. So that was probably the best education I could have gotten as a jazz musician, and really how it was back in the old days. We didn't learn it at a school; you learned it on the gig with a pro, and then I still always play somebody better than you, right? It's not a problem for me. But yeah, you learn on the gig, and then you go out and hash the songs over and really rehearse them, and come back and see if you got them. Boy, that made all the difference for me. It was awesome.
Well, I find it interesting too that you crossed over from musical theater into jazz because a lot of jazz, if you go back, came from musical theater, from Broadway, from movies.
100%.
So there is definitely like a historical significance of that
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Like all the jazz standards are from theater, and a lot of the famous composers were in both camps. And so, yeah, I think I'm definitely more trad guy that way, and for sure love the movie musical stuff. Yeah.
So what was it like for you to go from Red Deer to Boston and go to Berkeley? Like, was there a culture change? It's kind of a big move, right?
It was a huge move. I mean, I just rolled with it. It was awesome. It was fun. I had tried to soak it up as much as I could because I knew it was finite. I knew it would end. I knew I'd have to go back to Canada at least. I wasn't sure where I'd end up when I came back from college. You never know when. You never know what exactly how your life is going to map out. And it was actually a job offer at RDC that brought me back to Red Deer. But it was yeah, there was relationship stuff and other things, but really it was the job that got me back here. And then I never really left after that. I've been working a lot in like I've worked a lot in Calgary and Edmonton as well, and a ton in Banff Canmore. I started up with the Carter Ryan theater company there in about 2018, and I've been nonstop. I was there last summer, then in the fall, and I literally finished my contract there on the 5th of January. Have a couple weeks here. I'm going back to do this Simon and Garfunkel thing. Then I have another 4 weeks off, and then we're starting a feature film. So it's been a constant source of good. The work has to fulfill you, and that's what I love about it.
The history of jazz piano is like huge. There's been a lot of piano players that have come before,
Mhm.
and just in terms of like their styles, like for me, it's overwhelming to even just get a sense of where to start with the piano. But I'm wondering, as a piano player, how do you find your voice amongst that huge tradition of jazz piano?
Well, I do have a voice on the piano. I found a lot of the players do. I mean, I'm sure you could tell if you heard Herbie Hancock versus Bill Evans versus Oscar Peterson versus let's go back a ways into like some of the earlier days like Jimmy Jatsy and those cats. Um, you'll hear they've developed their own distinctive feel, and how you develop that yourself, it depends. It's all about your life experiences. I was gonna say choices, but that's wrong. It's experiences. I am also a sax player and woodwind player, so I listen to a lot of jazz flute, jazz saxophone. So that definitely changed because they use a different set of, say, licks are the wrong word, but they use turnarounds and stuff that we don't necessarily use on piano or trumpet because they feel awkward. But I find that my ears led me to some of those feels. Definitely phrasing. I
Interesting.
phrase more like a sax player because I'm always thinking about the breath, and I sing my solos, as you're probably aware. So that informs where you breathe and where you phrase as well. So
And that's also part of the piano tradition, is singing along. There's been
you should. If you don't, you end up with run-on sentences, right? So yeah, like that's an interesting question, but I think it all boils down to what your particular listening habits were, and if you're active listening. You will develop your own sound. You quickly do. I know I take influences from Bruce Hornsby, who I was way into as a teenager, and Elton John and Billy Joel, naturally, the balladeers, and then played a lot of Oscar, played a lot of Bill. Just you bring all that in.
I think one of the distinguishing characteristics of your music is that you just have so much joy when you play. Like there's this energy there. So tell me a little bit about that. Where does that come from, and how do you
Uh,
get that on your instrument while you're playing?
It's a great. I never thought about it quite that way. That's a good question. The joy comes because I enjoy every minute of what I'm doing. I really, especially if I'm behind a piano, you can't make me have a bad day. Like it's a good day. No bad days, right? So knowing and I've done the other side. I mean, I do have a welding ticket, and I have my family was in farm machinery, so I've experienced okay, make 5,000 of these parts, and you'll spend your summer doing that. I did that when I was 16. That's how I spent my summer, and so I've experienced that, and I know that music brings me a lot of joy. So when I play, I like to share that. And for me, jazz is a conversation. It's never, well, I mean, obviously sometimes I have to play solo and that's not really a conversation so much, but whenever I'm playing with another player, it's a conversation. And because of that, you tell jokes, you laugh about stuff, you tell stories, and that's what we're doing when we're improvising. And boy, that to me is just fun. It's just so much fun. Yeah. And it's always different. So there's never a chance to get bored because it's always a different conversation. My goal, for instance, I'll play with Eric, and my goal is to actually get him to burst out laughing by calling back to a tune he just did, or I'll cop part of his solo and then him do it, and he'll turn around and it's like, "Hey, stop stealing my stuff!" Right? So same thing with Rainier. We just he'll play an impossible rhythm, or I'll play something I know you can't do on the drums. So just to make it just more fun for us, and the audience gets into it, especially like you see at those like capstone gigs we did, the audience was right there with you. If you can get them to laugh, boy, you've done your job. You've brought them into the conversation of jazz and made it part of their experience. And we are entertainers. We can't forget that. It's not all about us playing a blizzard of notes and try. It's about us entertaining people, keeping ourselves entertained, creating a picture that we want to share. And to me, that's like the best job in the world, really.
So it's really hard to keep this bass line running while I'm soloing, and it feels weird at this tempo.
I think that's something you do really well, is that you draw the audience into you. Like you're just having so much fun that people want to be part of that fun.
Well, thank you. That is the intent. I'm glad it comes across.
For me, I've played a bunch of different gigs, but I always like the ones where I like the musicians,
Mm.
and I feel like there's some kind of connection where people are like responding to each other, listening, feeding off each other. Like that, like you're saying, those are just so much fun, right? If you can build something up with a group and then tear it back down again, and
Yeah,
you're not
bring them
even,
in on the joke.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
it's just such a magical experience
Mhm.
to have that kind of thing.
And there's so few venues like that. Um, that's the one thing I would love to see change. Like we have we have a lot of our venues are either there's a barrier. I find like big stages are a barrier,
Yeah,
and it's a very different experience. I love I love well, I mean, if you can get away from the distractions of cell phones and people yapping, yes, like any kind of venue where that is the case, but also the intimate venues are amazing. You can kind of get into that at like Velvet Olive.
yeah.
It's a little bit of that, but I find with the larger stages at like bars and stuff, I don't get that sense of connection with the audience. Um, Occasionally, I did some gigs with Mike Zabo, and he was a wonderful singer songwriter in town. And Jeremy and I are both in his band. Speaking of, and we do gigs with him, and they bring us. We did Bose, and it's great, but it's a big stage, and then we go from there to that Red Heart.
Yeah.
Totally different feel. I mean, because people are literally as far away as you now, and they're breathing in every word. And even though it's a bar, boy, it's got that sense of connection. So I actually prefer those little ones. But oh, it's interesting you mentioned that because I think many of us feel similarly.
So one of the questions I want to ask you is, what would you like to see happen in Red Deer over the next couple years?
Venue.
A venue. Like what you were saying, so an intimate venue where people come to listen.
We lack any kind of venue. The Red Deer Polytechnic venue is overpriced, if I may, and uh, under we have not enough seats in it. So you end up with something that you can't break even. So the symphony, they can't break even playing there. They always lose money doing a show there because they can't sell enough tickets because it's full and they lose money. So that's partially to do with the price, partially to do with just the cost of everything. And we don't have a publicly funded space here. The Memorial Center is a joke, as we know. The Memorial Center is being kept up with, duct tape and waddle. So yeah, it's not a great situation. Red Deer does not have a publicly funded arts performance space of any quality. And even you go to, I love the small communities around us. You got Lacombe has that great little space out in the park, and has the performing arts center, and Olds has a performing arts center, and I was out in Stettler and they've got a performing arts center, and then Red Deer. So we lack that, and because we lack that, it's slowly eroding the fabric of our art society here, because we don't have a place for us to gather, and it ends up being at a bar, or these aren't really performance spaces. Those are places where you can perform. Performance spaces are where the art is, number one, not where it's like booze sales. I appreciate them, but at the end of the day, it doesn't build a community. What builds a community is having a space. And I just heard, unfortunately, the piano is on the chopping block, and I hate to hear that. Yeah, Fort Victoria. What are they going to put in there? More classrooms. It's like, so yeah, I see. Unfortunately, our community's got great spirit, but it's not reflected by the provincial government or the municipal government, unfortunately, because they do not support at the level they should. And we've done a lot of studies, but the intangibles of it are, if you don't have a thriving arts community, you often end up with seeing an uptick in homelessness and crime. And conversely, with a strong, thriving arts community, you see the reverse of that. Now, it's not black and white, and there are other, that's been verified. Like, I'm not making that up, but it's too easy to get caught up in, well, we need just good paying, jobs where you're building stuff. It's like, there's other jobs, guys. And I've been a manufacturer, I've been a welder, I can say this with some authority. There are other jobs, and they still have value. But the idea that the only thing of value is like building something or healing the sick is like a little short-sighted. And the only buildings of value are, especially publicly funded buildings, are essentially either altars to sport or I say education, but it's not even well funded. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah, we place not enough value on artists, especially in Red Deer, and I would love to see that change.
So I do want to ask about Sylvan Lake Jazz Festival, because that obviously hits home.
Yeah, I was there every single year from its inception to its demise, unfortunately.
And that was running for 25 years. And it was a huge event, probably the largest jazz event in Central Alberta
For sure.
for the last 25 years. So tell us a little bit about how that came about and what that was like.
Well, Eric and Cheryl were the driving forces behind there. so Cheryl Fisher is from Silver Lake area and knew everybody. We had Jim Galoyan. You know Jim?
Yep.
He was PJ Perry's uncle. He lived in the community, and they had just a really. There was a huge Silver Lake back in the like this is before my time, but back in the 50s and 60s, had dance halls and big bands everywhere. It was really a big deal, and had an incredibly strong community. Cheryl tapped into that community, what was left of it, and was able to they were able to form this fledgling festival, and they put it on their backs and they carried it with a couple amazing volunteer, well, they pretty cool volunteer corps too, and they made it happen for like decades, but they made it happen, and they knew that it wouldn't survive their just losing steam, and the final nail was just the complete disinterest on the city's behalf of any kind of like they were actually charging them for like use of their own like the city's food truck, and they were charging them for permits and stuff. I'm like, guys, throw us a little bone, right? Like you're nickel and diming us for everything. They did the fundraising for the stage, and then the city wanted to charge them for the use of that stage that they fundraised for. It's oh no. So there was just a complete disinterest on a municipal level, and without support from your municipality that you're in, you cannot survive. You just cannot. They can throw up so many roadblocks, and you just see it time and time and time again. So that's what happened there. But it was an amazing festival I was at. Eric has amazing and deep contacts through the the music community in North America, and is able to pick up the phone and call A-listers, and they're like, "Sure, we'll be there," and they did. They came out.
And I think it's so important for Red Deer to be connected to the larger world because sometimes it feels like we're a little isolated. And
Yep,
that was one of the cool things about Silver Lake Jazz Festival is that they
they
did
connected
bring
us
in people that helped connect us to this larger
100%,
environment, community that
100%.
we're in.
And really, the jazz community and music community is not that large. We have a superstar in Red Deer in the name of Claude Lapalme, who's literally worked with everybody under the sun, and he lives, just over there, and and lives and works in Red Deer. We have a great community of uh, of musicians that have actually been around the block, but the community itself isn't really helping keep them here. So we need to work on that. We need to work on that, or ultimately things started to cycle down a little bit with the college closing its programs, and then that's continued to cycle down. It just has downstream effects that you can't ignore. They generally don't happen immediately, but like cutting all of your arts programs on a post-secondary level means that anybody wanting to study it has to move out of town,
Yeah.
which decreases the likelihood of them coming back. So once the people that were kind of forming your core start, the attrition starts happening, suddenly you realize, oh, so you don't see it the year after, or the 2 years after, or 5 years after the program closes. You see it 10 years after. When you look around, like, oh, there's no place to go to anymore. Oh, there's no recording artists in town anymore. Everybody that's a recording artist has moved out of town. Oh, that's the shame. And we're seeing that happen now. And
Yeah.
like I applaud your efforts um, trying to get something really going with the music community. I mean, I've been well. I mean, I'm emblematic of that. 80% of my work is out of town. 80% of my work is in Calgary or in Banff, Canmore. I was doing like I did some Citadel shows. I worked at Stage West. But where am I not working? My own hometown, because there's nothing for me to do.
I think you said something really interesting, which is about like that long-term impact. And we're going to lose a whole generation of young people here,
Mhm.
right? Because they're leaving,
And they don't
right?
come back. Yep.
And that is going to impact us. And we rely on young people to come in and fill in the workforce and be part of that next wave of people that
Yes.
are going to come and take over when it's their time.
Yep.
And uh, that's a huge negative thing that we're not going to have that now.
Well, the positive thing would be, and they do like the city and the recruitment stuff, was we have a symphony orchestra. We have these things, but they don't. Well, that's not true. They've started supporting the symphony again, but they weren't, and they were yet. The rewards of it are that's how you get the doctors to come in. That's how you get the professionals to come in. That's how you get a chain that wants someplace to set up shop or to relocate their head office. hey, this is a great community because we've got all these great things for you to do. If we just become you know, you can see a hockey game or go watch a community baseball game in the summer. It's like, well, those are things of value. Don't get me wrong, but people want to go out to a show, want to see musicians play, and they want to go to your local coffee shop and see somebody playing guitar and singing in the corner. They want that. We've not made a community that's conducive to that, and that actually makes the community itself a hard sell for the people you want to come in and help be community builders, the doctors, the teachers, the the oil rig shop that wants a place to put their headquarters. You want them to go, let's go to Red Deer. It's a really cool city. It's happening. Got great bike trails and they've got a coliseum and you can see great big shows. Oh, and they've got a great theater scene. Oh my God, it's like that's what you want. For me, the biggest win would be if everybody would go out to a show and would go support live music, live theater. I feel that we've been kind of electing people that maybe do not have any vested interest in seeing the arts succeed for the last while, and it's not serving us well. I would point out that even 10 years ago, under Redford's and Stelmach's government, we had a minister of the arts that we no longer have. That he would go around and chat and say, how can we help? What can we do? We need to make sure that we're making our local elected officials aware of the deficit. I don't know if we have as much time as I'd like, simply because, like I said, of the deficit we've created in Red Deer, it's not healthy. We have to make sure that people that go out into the big wide world and get a collection of skills want to come back here and share their skills, and they simply won't if there's no place to do it. So how people can support me, there's nothing personal I need. What I want for is a better place for Red Deerians to go and watch and enjoy and be part of the conversation. The television is not conversation. The radio is not conversation. Live music, live theater, the artists we have in town. There's some amazing artists in town. We have talent here, but we need a home.
Well, hey, thanks, Morgan. I appreciate you sitting down with me today for this interview.
Thank you, TELUS STORYHIVE.